So, welcome everybody. My name is Joy Weiss. I am one of the associate directors here in the Center for Global Education. And today we're going to walk through sights and sounds of the London program. I have been with St. Ben St. John's since 2008. And since that time, I have worked with this program since 2008. So I've had the fortune to be on the ground with FIE 4 times doing site visits. So a site visit for us is anywhere from 3 to 5 days, visiting the site, looking at the sights and sounds of what this particular program has to offer. So I will share some aspects in regards to the program requirements. And then today we will also hear from returnees who have lived the experience as well, along with your virtual mentor, Allison Spinader. Please note, we are recording this portion, so we're going to record the part in regards to introducing Allison Spinader. We're going to record the part that talks about life in London, the program paperwork. So in case you guys want to reference a certain part, you have that. And then we'll go through Q&A, and that's where we'll stop the recording. This will be also shared with parents so they can hear this part as well. And then the rest of the day is kind of returned back to you all, so you guys can really get to know each other, since this is the first time you guys are meeting in person versus having the email lines to each other. So without further ado, I will introduce Allison here, who will talk through the next few pieces, and then we'll move on to life in London, and we'll have the ambassadors introduce them. And then after they kind of share a little bit of the sights and sounds of London, I'll talk through some program paperwork and lead it up to some Q&A. And we'll close that portion and return to Allison there. All right, does that sound like a game plan for tonight? Okay. Awesome. And with that, I will turn it over to Allison.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all in person. If I didn't meet you in person, a few people I've only met over Zoom, but now we get to see everybody. You get to see each other. It's so exciting. You are taking the first concrete steps towards your semester in London. I talked to you all when we did the interview, so you know a little bit about me. I've done a number of study abroad programs. What you might not know about me is I did my first study abroad program when I had just turned 16 years old, and I was an AFS high school exchange student to Sweden for the year program. So I lived with a host family for the entire year and up to junior year of high school in Sweden. That really got me excited about study abroad. My sister did the year program to Japan 3 years before I was in Sweden, and my little sister also, I convinced her Sweden was like the best, so she went to Sweden for a year as well. And we hosted an exchange student. Then in college, I did semester back in Sweden, and I did a semester in Poland because my Swedish host family were Polish immigrants, and I started learning Polish when I lived in Sweden. So now I have all these obscure languages, but we don't have programs to those countries except that one Scandinavia program. I got to use my Swedish, but I've been doing some of our English language programs for a number of years now. And I teach in the education department. A lot of you came for your interviews and got to pass through the department. I'm currently department chair. And I also, what was I gonna say? I do research on study abroad with Joy. So if you search us up in Scholar, on Google Scholar, you will find some of our articles about St. Ben St. John's study abroad programs. We're very interested in making sure these programs are really impactful for students, that you get a lot of growth out of them. In particular, we look at intercultural learning. I've also done some research on language learning in our Spanish language programs. So I do a lot with study abroad. I'm really passionate about study abroad, and I'm excited to be your virtual mentors while you're in London. Sorry, I won't be there in person, but as I explained to a lot of you, I am available before you leave as a resource. I will run your pre-departure orientations. And then when you're in London, you can also reach out to me and I'll be just another resource. Although the FIE people, they're going to work with you one-on-one. So we have 3 pre-departure meetings. This is the first one. I sent out calendar invites for number 2 and number 3, and a bunch of you have accepted. Can everyone come to at least one of the next 2? Is there anyone who can't come to either of those 2? Okay, then I think we can keep those dates. It is fully anticipated that some people might have to come late. I know Lexi's coming a little late tonight to this meeting because she had a class at St. John's. So we'll meet her in a half hour or so. Other people might have to leave early. That's okay. We'll be flexible. Come for whatever portion you can and come for whichever meeting you can come to. I'll email out information as we get close to our next one about our Canvas site. So when you are in London, the Canvas course shell is going to be kind of our main course shell. Does anyone know how many credits this little course you're taking with me is for?
So 2 credits.
Oh, that's a good guess. It's only 1, so it's even smaller. It's just a 1 credit class. And I have just a few assignments. They're mostly reflections. I'm trying to remember, were either of you on my virtual mentor or were you with a? You had it in person.
No, there was
spring.
spring.
No, you were with me.
Yeah.
So,
When
It was last spring.
that was last spring. Yeah, so
Crazy.
that's great. So they've been through the assignments and it's not like a ton. It's a few reflections. We read a book together and then the reflections have to do with that book. And then you write 2 short papers, like 2 or 3 pages. I think they ended up being for most students. We'll also do a Zoom call as a group about halfway through the program. And then towards the end, I'll do an individual Zoom with each of you to kind of talk through one of your papers and how it's going for you. So that's kind of it. So journals, online assignments, and the required textbook. So I will bring a copy of that book next time. Do we know if it's available for purchase? It is an ebook and it's available for purchase, or can they get it through the library?
I don't think
It's not the library.
it's not a physical book in the library, but you can download chapters. I do think it's back in print if they would want to like Amazon it if they would.
Otherwise, you can buy an ebook copy.
Yeah, but this ebook is free.
But the ebook is free?
Yeah,
Okay,
ebook is free through the library.
that's what I meant. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can just check it out. So you don't even have to buy this book.
Yeah.
You'll be able to access it through St.
I actually have a bunch of chapters and I can talk to you of PDFs that I used
Oh,
in
great.
the Canvas course.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so those are sort of the on-site assignments. And then when we come back, there is a welcome back dinner. I wasn't able to go this year, but I hope it was good. It was kind of fun. Yeah. Although I was at was I at yours though?
You're at the mall.
I was at the fall. I can't remember. So many programs, so many programs, yeah. But there is a chance then to reconvene. It'll happen in January, usually. Yeah. The fall group meets again in January. And we can do a group gathering of some sort if you would like. There's some options there. Okay, do I do this slide? No.
And then we move
Yeah.
on to.
Well, were there any questions so far? Okay. All right, welcome ambassadors.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Thea Oman. I'm a senior, was abroad last fall on the spring program. I'm an education major. And yeah, this is Anna. Oh, yeah, we were together spring of 2022 in London. I'm a senior psychology major, global business and minor. And yeah, we're here to talk to you today about London. Yeah, we'll give you a little overview about everything, the city, the school, what you're going to be able to expect from your classes, internships, all that. So just to start off, all about London. You obviously know you're going to London. It's in the UK, and there's 33 boroughs. So as you can see, it's kind of split up in those different areas, and you'll be in borough number 3, which is the Kensington borough. Kensington, Chelsea area is what you'll often hear for the area that you're living in. The population is approximately 8.9 million, huge city. That includes the surrounding area though, which feels like it kind of goes on forever and ever. And then our institution partner over there is FIE, or Foundation for International Education. And that is who you'll be taking all of your classes with, besides the 1,000. So this is a more up close look at like your borough, where you'll be living, and some of the main buildings that will be in your area. So I will point over here. So Foundation for International Education, the classrooms are in Foundation House, which is right there. And then there are 3 housing locations over here, a tube station, another one. But overall, super walkable. You can get anywhere within like 10-15 minutes for school buildings. And like I said, Hyde Park Gate, Metro Gate, and Manson Place are the 3 housing options that are close to the school. So yeah, it's a super nice area right by Kensington Palace, and Kensington Palace Gardens, which is awesome to explore as well. Yeah, also the other museums in the area too, which you all can go to for classes and different things like that. Highlighted on there. So the actual house, foundation house, like Anna just pointed out, that's a picture of it. It's a super cute building, super fun, 4 floors, lots of stairs. But it's really centrally located in Kensington. It's right by Gloucester Road Station. And then about 10 minutes to the other stations, I would say. But located within there is all of your classes, all of the kind of educational offices and professor offices that you would need to access. Then in the basement, there's a student lounge and Wi-Fi, there's study rooms, really just your campus all in one building. And then I was gonna add one more thing. Oh yeah, then in the basement there is a sort of like student life office as well. So everything that you would really need according to either academics or student life is really all gonna be found within Foundation House. And it's like locked, there's a code, it's only for FIE students, you and the other American Study Abroad students that will be attending. So like they just mentioned, there's like a student life office in the basement. You can see a picture of it on the right. This is where you go for like activities, if you need help with anything. Yeah, FIE, which we'll talk about later, puts on like events and things that you can purchase to go to like activities wise. And then on the 4th floor is the Accelerated Education Office, which will be helpful when you're starting to explore like internships. And if you needed any help in that time too. All right, so then kind of going into the academic side of everything in London. So this kind of lays out your credits and the courses that you'll have. So I'm assuming Global Reflections is Allison's class, your 1 credit class with her because she is your virtual mentor. And then everyone takes the British Life and Culture class, which is required 4 credit class. This is the whole semester. Usually just once a week, I think. And just so you know, all the classes are 3 hours usually. Kind of going back to that block schedule, kind of feel for it. But anyway, British Life and Culture is kind of your overview of everything British. You go into religion, the monarchy, you go into pop culture, every single thing you could think of that's British. It's a big deep dive into that, which is super helpful because you feel very informed about the place that you're living while you're living there. It's also a bunch of excursions included in that class. So a lot of classes are out and about and a lot of reflection on it. So it definitely is more of a fun and informative class in my opinion. And then your other classes, you have 2 open enrollment courses. Yes, so there's a big list of FIE classes that you can choose from, whether you need to fulfill certain requirements or just interests that you have. I know there's a lot of fine arts. There's an option for your upper theology, which is something that I did. Also, if you are a global business major or more specific majors like that, some of them are actually, what would you say, Joy? They are like transferable
requirements for your actual major, and I'll get into like what those look like a little bit later. But yeah, so there's some transferable for your major, but there's also then ones that work for integrations, like they mentioned, like fine arts or theology. And there's one course that meets a theme, justice theme. And there's one course that needs the social difference. So because you don't have a faculty director on this program, you don't automatically get the CSD course. You would have to choose a course that meets those requirements. So that's just one clarification I want to talk about that. In choosing your 2 electives, that would have to be one of your electives. And we can talk more about that when we're choosing classes a little bit later, but lots of fun options. Any other options you guys did?
Yeah, so I guess some of the ones that we did, I did my upper theology class, which is like an Islam in the West course, super informative, got to go and go into some different mosques and really like learn about that culture in London, because it's just such a melting pot. There's everything and everyone represented there, which was super awesome. And then I also took a Harry Potter class, which really dove deep into all the books, all the movies, all like the themes and ideas behind those, and that was just one more for fun. Or yeah, I got a humanities out of it, but we have a different course, like curriculum, yeah, and like requirements than you guys do the other common, so we can't really relate on that level, but those were 2 that I really liked.
Yeah, because we're on a different curriculum, like we had to take an ethics course, but I took healthcare ethics abroad, which was super interesting. My professor went to Oxford and worked for the NHS, and he was super smart.
What's the NHS?
The National Health Service, so they have free healthcare over there, which is cool. And you'll learn about that in British Life and Culture. So I did healthcare ethics with him, and then I did my fine arts credit, which was the history of modern design. And that was super cool because we got to visit a lot of museums and learn about art in London. So, and then British Life and Culture, of course.
So what was fine arts is now artistic expression. So anything that was fine arts would be artistic expression for you guys also, in case you're looking for that to be fulfilled by abroad.
And like it says up there, excursions are built into every course. There's theater classes where you go to plays. For us, we did a Harry Potter walking tour. You guys did museum visits and whatnot. So everything is super interactive. You really feel like it's centered around the city that you're in, which is something that they do really well. And then the last one up there is the internship course with your internship placement, which is in the last 7 weeks of your time abroad. The first 7 weeks is more course loaded. Some courses will continue the whole time, but your first 7 weeks is course loaded, a spring break, and then your last 7 weeks will be your internship. And that is a whole placement process, but there is a course that goes along with your internship. So, yeah.
Which, speaking of internships, you will do a 7-week-long internship abroad. There are service internship options available, which you can talk to Joy about, but most are just regular course associated internships. And they place you super well with your company. You'll interview for it, you'll fill out applications. You can see me up there. Thea and I will talk a little bit about our internship. So I worked for a company called Finley, and they made luxury eyewear. So like sunglasses and optical glasses, which you can kind of see up there. And I did business operations for them. And it was super cool. I got to work with their stock. I got to work with their website. I got to attend a photo shoot. I got to see a couple celebrities come in their store because they were located in Notting Hill, which you'll learn is just north of your borough and a super wealthy, nice neighborhood. So yeah, I learned a lot. I had amazing coworkers. One thing that I really liked was when I would go to British Life and Culture and like learn in the classroom about something like the monarchy or politics, and I would like go to work and ask my coworkers like, what do you think about this and stuff like that. So super awesome to make connections with people who live there. So
Yeah, so my internship was a little bit, we really had different internship experiences. I was at a nonprofit actually. So as an education major, I really wanted to be in a field where I was working directly with people, and whether that be kids or adults. So I ended up at a nonprofit for adults with severe mental health disabilities. And it was a program or nonprofit that those people could attend. They're actually prescribed that by their doctor for their severe mental health issues. It was a place called Core Arts where they could go and do arts, sports, music, all these different classes. And that was along kind of in their prescription plan for their mental health disabilities, which is so cool in my opinion. It was really life-changing experience for me. I got to connect with people from all walks of life that live in London, and I was a teacher's assistant in their classes. So, and how I kind of got placed with that, you have the opportunity to kind of express the areas that you're interested in, and based on your major and based on your past experiences and what you're looking to get out of it. And so that is kind of how I ended up there. It was so much fun. But yeah, so I honestly mentioned that I was into music and I was into sports, and they really handpick through all of these different opportunities and your interests and find a great place for you. So I know you'll all have great experiences based on ours and our fellow abroad people's. All right, so these are our housing options. Okay, so we have Manson Place, Hyde Park Gate, and Metro Gate. They're all like flat or resident style living, and they're located all within walking distance of Foundation House. If you think back to that map in the beginning, they were all in the Kensington area, about 10-minute walk from, I would honestly say from each to the other, it's about 10-minute walk. So there's residents like supervisors that live in each building. We ended up having one on our floor, but that was just our own experience. But they're just kind of there to check in with you and be someone you could go to when things go wrong, the fire alarm goes off, things like that. So it's not as much of like an RA situation as it is just like support and the actual living. So all rooms are different shapes and sizes. So these are all like buildings that have been there for a long time and have been converted into flats or resident style living. So it's actually really cool and quirky. They all have their own unique things about them. So yes, when you're living there, communal spaces are cleaned once a week or more. There is like kind of a cleaning staff that works there. They will wash your sheets if you remember to put them out there for them. And then they will clean your bathrooms and clean the kitchens, not your dishes, but like the areas. So that's really nice. You don't have to really buy any of that cleaning supplies unless you want it extra. Yeah, so clean linens provided, but you do need to bring your own towels. And then, yeah, so after you do your full application with FIE, they will notify you of your housing placement within like 1 month before arrival. That was pretty accurate for us too.
Yeah.
And that, if you're worried about roommates or anything like that, the process is all online on the FIU website. You, just, if you have a preference or if you have no preference or if you want a single, they really do well at accommodating that, especially with a smaller group. I think you guys will all end up in a great living situation. All 3 of these are awesome, but obviously you don't really have the same which house you live in. Some have laundry, some don't, but they're all really great.
Yeah, I think we'll dive a little bit deeper into that too. I also just wanted to add, you get to find out where you live a month before, but you don't get to find out like your roommates until you arrive. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Kind of stressful. So Manson Place and Hyde Park Gate are the most similar. We lived in Hyde Park Gate. There are 1 to 2 kitchens per flat that have pots and pans and silverware and all the things you need in them. And then bedrooms have between 1 and 4 people living in them. They are gender specific. We ended up in a room with 4 girls. And then there are bathrooms attached to the rooms or right outside the rooms. And then there is laundry in Manson Place and Metro Gate. So we had to lug our laundry in our suitcases. But it was worth it. It was okay.
Yeah.
Did you live only with other CSB students or with anyone else?
Well, okay, so Hyde Park Gate had 6 floors and 4 of them were CSBSU floors. We had a very large group. But then like the first floor was another university, I think it was UW-Madison, and the top floor was like an East Coast university. So your flat would be CSBSU people, but around you might be other universities. Good question.
So yeah, you're like you're surrounded by them, but yeah, that's kind of all determined on where you end up, because I know they all end up a little bit differently. If you ended up in Metro Gate, it's a little bit more like dorm style living versus Manson Place. So this one, yeah, so this is kind of like the flat style living. That is an example of our kitchen, what our kitchen looked like in Hyde Park Gate, but they look very similar to that in Manson Place. And then this was kind of, this shows kind of the quirks of the building, and like the very lovely character that I think they honestly had. But the kitchens are all equipped with basic cooking gear and utensils, really everything you need. I don't think anyone had to have need to go buy anything else. And if something breaks or you have no pans, I'm sure there's people you can talk to that will replace those things for you. Yeah, so like we said, bedrooms are fitted for 1 to 4 students, depending on the preferences that you make too. And that we kind of already covered. And then the other one is Metrogate, which is a little bit different. This is where the mail center is. So if you get mail, go there. This is where they also have a computer lab and like a study space in the basement. And then this is where another laundry facility is as well. Also the Res Life staff are here, so if you need anything, in terms of your flat or anything that goes on there, you can talk to them in Metrogate. There's also a shared kitchen, but yeah, it's just kind of like Foundation House is like the hub for school and most Res Life stuff, but then also Metrogate has like mail and other things too. So, yeah, this is a place where I feel like, I mean, you will have group projects with people from other universities and whatnot, so like this is a very central place that everyone can get into. You often wouldn't always meet at your own flats. I mean, you totally can, but this is a very central hub. They have like printers, as you can see, computer labs, so a lot of group project stuff and meetings with other people I found would happen there in that basement area, which is open to everybody. Yeah, and then if you want to order anything, or if your parents want to send you a letter or something, you'd send it to Metrogate, but they'll remind you of that too. Oh yeah, so a little bit more about that. We haven't had any CSBSU people ending up in Metrogate for a while, but this is totally possible for you all. So 1 to 4 students will share a room. Most rooms have ensuite bathrooms, but then it's still like the shared kitchen, yeah. For everyone on your floor. So you might be sharing a kitchen with 15 or so, or even more people, but your rooms and your bathrooms will be private, is my understanding of it. And then all bedrooms have your own personal refrigerator in them in this style of living. And then this is like the upstairs of that kind of hub area for Res Life. So there's always a Res Life staff at the desk downstairs too, and live-in ones as well. And then, yeah, like we said, the large study lounges are throughout the building and also in the basement. So then, kind of like we mentioned, laundry is not included. It's at Manson Place in Metrogate. It costs money. So you'll put it on you like a little laundry card that you can load money onto. It's £3 and 150 pounds, which equates to about like $4 and $2. So yeah, not much else to say about that one. Yeah, not ideal, but yeah, definitely not ideal. I would say we definitely rewore clothes a lot. Because we shared a lot. We rewore clothes a lot. One, because we didn't have laundry in our building, so it was not really a luxury that we could just run downstairs and do it. Like if we did laundry, we went to Metrogate, sat in the basement while we did it and did homework, stuff like that, which totally worth it. Loved where we lived. Just saying that was kind of our reality. But the other two, Manson Place and if you lived in Metrogate, do have laundry, but with it costing money and whatnot, we definitely kind of slimmed out the amount of times that we would do laundry compared to the luxury we have here when we have them so close to us. All right, so the FIE Student Center. So you do, through FIE, you have access to clubs at the Imperial College, which is a super, super prestigious college that is right next to you in Kensington area. They have a really pretty campus. So we kind of spend a lot of time just like in that area too. They have some open community like cafes and stuff you can study in, but also you get a membership where you can join clubs and societies and get into their student union, which is kind of cool. I don't know a ton of people that took advantage of this, but I know some people did and had a really great time with that. They have a ton of different clubs you can join, kind of like it's your own university. And then through FIE, they also have subsidized activities, which I know Anna and I really recommend. We took advantage of these wholeheartedly and had the best time. One reason that I would recommend them is because they are cheaper. You book them ahead of time, like honestly, before you even get there, you can go on and they send out an email when they release the different activities, but it's cheaper than you could ever plan to do it yourself. And it's super desirable things that you would most likely want to do, at least for some of them. The London Eye, I ended up getting my ticket on there and it's a little bit cheaper than what it would be if you just went online or showed up and bought a ticket. They usually go to a play. The one that we went to was Wicked, and it was like 25 pounds or something for a really great West End play experience. It might not be Wicked, but it'll be another big name. Lion King, I know, is another one that they have often people going to. So I would definitely take advantage of that too. Wales weekend, which would be pictures like the hike and the kayaking there. They have a ton of activities like cliff jumping, surfing, kayaking, tours of castles, big hikes along the cliffs. And then you stay in a lodge there, which was something that a ton of us students took advantage of, and I really recommend doing that. And it's also super cheap, food's included, transportation, all that in the upfront price. Other things like the O2 climb and the Harry Potter tour definitely are cheaper if you go through FIE. So I recommend them.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I can't recommend Wales weekend enough. They're all great, but Wales weekend was like actually insane. It was so fun. They'll send out links for this before you get there and get on there and reserve your space fast because it'll fill up. So just look for emails and
Yeah.
well worth it. We went surfing in Wales. How many people can say they went surfing in Wales? Not many.
Yeah, and in February.
It's so fun.
I mean, for you guys, it would be in the fall, but
And then we went cliff jumping too. Like, I loved it.
yeah, super
We
fun.
had really good food. Anyway.
True, yeah.
Questions?
Yeah,
How's the weather there? I'm not familiar. but-
In London or in Wales? Both.
Did Wales fall?
well, I mean, in the UK in general. it's pretty-
It's pretty temperate. It's like 40s, 50s probably on like
fall.
okay, going
warm.
so in like November, December, it'll be like 40s, 50s, but then like when you get there, it'll be probably still in the 70s. So
Okay.
it'll be rainy season starts, I think, like November, December, so it might be a little bit rainier towards the end of your trip. Bring a raincoat or buy one. But overall, I don't know, London's known for its rain. It might sprinkle a little bit or be overcast, but it really like, I think it was that.
I always tell
like the
people,
weather.
you just bring your fall coat, you know,
Yeah.
winter coat, don't bring
Definitely
your
don't bring it.
gloves. I mean, you could bring gloves, but I don't think I wore them at all. And I didn't bring a hat.
Yeah,
I did bring a scarf.
yeah, it's actually really nice.
So that's like my tip, and you don't need winter boots.
No, you won't have like the snow, and if it snows, it'll melt as it hits the ground, you know, it's not gonna get that crazy, especially because you're home before Christmas. So.
But I think on the other extreme is like you won't have those like your summer sundresses or like
Right.
shorts, like you could maybe wear shorts one day in September kind of thing.
Yeah.
But truly, like your any kind of summer wear would only be for independent travel. And layers is your friend, because in a day though, I would say there is like ups and downs. So one is it reminds me if you've ever spent time in like Seattle, Portland weather. So it's a little bit more cloudy, a little bit more like the ocean just keeps it not necessarily so hot and not necessarily so cool. I don't know, everyone's different. I get cold easily. I actually have brought gloves and a hat and was very happy. If you're gonna spend all day and it's one of those like misty days, then it's helpful in like November, December. Especially like to and from your internship, if you're like traveling, depending on how your travel is. So, but those 2 months, but honestly, those are things you probably don't have to like pack, but then decide once you're there, like to buy, right? Like,
Exactly.
but definitely do not need a winter coat. It's definitely your fall coat max. But waterproof is still,
Yeah.
yeah,
I would also say that Europeans in general don't typically wear shorts a lot.
yeah.
So like long pants and like t-shirts in September is what you'll typically see it,
Yeah.
you know. out and about.
Yeah, not a lot of dresses and shorts and stuff in the city, especially like public transportation, just, yeah, no. Yeah.
Yeah, so CSBFJU will also send you on some excursions. They'll vary. We went to the Tower of London and Oxford. But they also send kids to Stonehenge and Bath, and we went to Greenwich as well. So those are super cool experiences that you'll just go with your group on. Definitely take advantage of those. And then you'll also get what's called an Oyster card, which will get you all around zones 1 and 2 of the tube, which is the underground system. And then on the bus, like those red double-decker buses, those are super helpful to get around as well. And it'll get you around all the zones of that. And you'll learn as you get there, like how to navigate the tube, how to navigate the buses. Most tube lines close at midnight, so if you're out later, like you'll learn like, oh, I need to catch this bus to get here then, and things like that. But yeah, those are some excursions that CSBSJU will send you on, aside from ones that you can sign up for with FIE.
And along with the tube pass, this, like your Oyster card will get you into like zones 1 and 2, like fully included in that. That doesn't mean you can't go outside of that on the tube. You just need to top up your card, which means just add like funds. But it's not a lot of money to add onto those ones. And I think it goes all the way out to zone 6. Like you can go all the way to Heathrow Airport, which is like way out of the way on there. But yeah, just so you know, the buses will get you everywhere, but with the tube, you can take it farther, but you'll just have to add more money onto your card, which is a simple process too.
But honestly, we didn't really go outside the zones 1 and 2 hardly.
It's not
ever.
that often, no.
But yeah.
All right, so, oh, yes, so some things I can do to prepare now. I think some things that would be most helpful for us to talk about would be some helpful apps. So there's a few different apps that you can use for like transportation and things like that and budgeting. There's a lot of budgeting apps, so whatever you can find on the App Store for free is great. Or even just like Excel spreadsheets. I know some people did that. City Mapper for getting around everywhere. It's free. They have it for other cities too. If you're traveling to other cities, you can just switch your location on there. So City Mapper, you can really just type in any address or any landmark or anywhere that you need to go. And it will give you the bus route, the tube route, the walk route, all of that, the bike route, even if you wanted to like rent a bike. It's like the most handy app that I use. We probably used it daily because while you will know most of your routes to get places eventually, you're always going to be going somewhere new. And City Mapping it is never going to hurt.
And it tells you like the times that the buses and the tubes come. And like you might start on the tube and then get off at a stop and then take the bus and then walk. So it like really breaks it down super nice for you. Yeah, and then like I would always like throw in my internship place like in the morning before I was about to leave, and then it would tell me like oh, the next bus is in 6 minutes, and then I'd like kind of map it all
Run out the
too.
door. Yeah, if you're by a bus.
City Mapper, it's a little green logo with an arrow on it. Definitely download that one.
Yeah, City Mapper is definitely honestly my number one. Apple Maps does work. I just found it's not quite as reliable for some things like that. And it does have a lot of the other big cities. Like I said, if you're going to travel to Rome or
I used it in Paris.
And yeah, Vienna. So really just any big European cities and even some smaller ones you might not expect, like Edinburgh and other places like that too, they have on it. So highly recommend that one. Going to the cell phones, because CSPSU requires you to have a working cell phone, and obviously it's handy to have a working cell phone at all times. The company that we went through, both of us, was called GiftGaff. You can get a free SIM card, and then from there you choose what level of plan that you want, which basically is just how much data that you get. And I think, what did we pay, like £12 a month?
Yeah, like £12 a month
For enough data. It wasn't unlimited. You can get unlimited.
It's like 15 gigabytes of data for £12 a month, which is so much more affordable than using like your home provider, but you can also do that.
Yeah, you can go through your home provider, but we did do international SIM cards, and it, like if you traveled outside of the country too, it automatically connected you to the providers there too. So it was really slick. And it was all through an app, all your payments, and like you can change your plan, everything. And you can order your SIM card for free, like even before you get there. Or you can order it to MetroGate when you get there too. They also do have like your Verizon, AT&T plans. They're just a little bit more expensive and harder to manage from over there if you don't have someone that you can contact here to stay on top of that for you.
And honestly, the service is better with GiftGap too, like, cause it's like a European service. As we're like Verizon, it'd be like an international plan, it's just like your phone will work faster and load faster, if you have a SIM card, but everyone does what's best for them.
Exactly, and then like the SIM card, like removers and all of that, it's kind of feels overwhelming right away, but then honestly, once you're on that sort of plan and have your new SIM card in. It's just way easier in my opinion, but making sure that if you do switch SIM cards, saving your home SIM card, because that's what you need to switch back to when you get back to the US. And if you don't have that, or if you lose it, then you will lose all the things from your original phone from here. So, yeah.
And I know some people try to survive off of free Wi-Fi.
Don't do that.
And it's not a great option. Like you might find some, but there are security issues. And so people stealing your data because you're on free with Wi-Fi, it's not as strong. It'll have slower connections and it's not gonna cut it. So I think you will need some kind of data plan. Because when you're out and about traveling and you're worried about the last bus, you have to be able to get online
Exactly.
and check your city map or.
Yeah.
For sure. Can you talk about Wi-Fi where you live?
Yeah, so Wi-Fi is available in all FIE buildings and like Foundation House, all of the different residential places. I would say it was decent. It was probably better in like the hubs like MetroGate and FIE in like Foundation House, but it works everywhere well enough. Just saying, like, if you have any like Zoom calls that are important from home or like interviews, I would recommend going to one of those hubs rather than being at like your residential place, because those ones are a little more spotty from my experience anyway. Like I had a job interview from home and it was terrible. So I would make sure that you you can even like rent out rooms to use for things like that. But definitely better Wi-Fi in those two main buildings, MetroGate and Foundation House.
The other thing I would say about the cell phone, if you get a SIM card, you'll get a British phone number, which means that you wouldn't use your iMessages necessarily to text your family and friends from home. You would use like WhatsApp. So you kind of switch over to that, but then WhatsApp is like Wi-Fi based, and like you can use cellular data on it, so that it works anywhere. So it was really handy. You just have to like, it takes kind of a week or two to make the mental switch, like, oh, I'm using WhatsApp now to text my family and friends and call them. So that's just one more little switch.
A newer endeavor, we don't know if we've had too many people, but there is what's called eSIM card. So truly, you actually don't remove your original SIM card, but it really is just a service that attaches, and you'll have your original SIM card still in there, but you will have the ability to get a UK SIM. The pricing on that is a little more expensive, so maybe not the best option right now, but we can have so the key thing is just don't lose your original SIM card. But that for short-term trips, maybe even for parents, we've seen that. I had a colleague use that when she went to Italy and it was really slick. And then she could like swap back to her home to like for iMessage and then swap back to her Italian phone number. But I just Googled like eSIM for longer term, and it's like $10 more a month than like a gift gap kind of situation. So, but anyway, a newer option that has surfaced in the last probably 6 months, that's an option. So just Google eSIM. But gift gap, many students that choose the SIM card route have done that. And then truly at this point in time, we can open up to any questions that you may have.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. In regards to anything you've heard thus far.
Yeah, anything at all, yeah.
Kind of going back to the whole like free thing at that one college, like the activities.
Yeah.
Does that count for like a gym? Can we like go into their gym, or is it?
Very, very good question.
Some people did think that.
We hoped for that. There's no gym membership like through the college, unfortunately.
luckily, there is a gym that you can join, there's like Anytime Fitness, there's like gym options that you can join that cost money. What Thea and I decided to do is go on like eBay and buy like a weight set for 10 pounds, and then we just like work out with that like in our rooms or like in the park. We did a lot of walking and running, so kind of getting creative with your workouts, I guess. If you're not willing to pay the money to join a gym, which we weren't. So unfortunately, no. Yeah, so the gym memberships are a little bit more expensive over there. I know some people like that already used Anytime Fitness were able to get into some of those. Yeah, like if you bring your fob, it might work. If you bring the key fob, try it. It might not work. But then you wouldn't have to pay that extra for the fob. I think it would just be the membership. I don't really know. We didn't go the gym route, but we did, yeah, a lot of walking, running. It's a super active city outside, like biking, like you'll see people doing yoga in the park. Like I would just really, in my opinion, unless like obviously working out is a bigger role in other people, in like some people's lives than others, but like just getting outside and seeing the city is a great way to be active. Got like 10,000 steps a day most of the time or more. So I would say, if you don't want to spend a ton of time in the gym, I wouldn't say it's worth it, in my opinion. Because you'd rather spend that money on traveling to new cities. Sorry, anyway, yes.
So how much money would you say you like spent a week outside of like things like food and like things that were
Yeah.
required? And how much money did you actually end up spending on like food and eating out?
I would say it depended on the week and it depended on whether we were traveling or not. I would say overall on food, I probably spent around $1,000 over the 4 months. Food is more expensive over there. I don't know, would you agree with that kind of? I would agree with that. It really also just depends on if you're the type of person that's like looking to eat out all the time, or if you're the type of person that's looking to cook in. Like they have the fully functional kitchens, bunch of grocery stores around us. We did a lot. You can save a ton of money by just cooking in and maybe like limiting yourself to like 1 or 2 times out to eat for meals a week. I mean, we got coffees and little things like that all the time, like for breakfast, pastries, whatever, but like for actual meals, like maybe setting aside more like, I don't know, strict like amounts on that, because that can really get away from you. The restaurants are more expensive there than they would be here. It just kind of depends like what you want to spend your money on. If you'd rather spend your money on like going out for a meal, or if you'd rather spend it on an extra ticket to like a West End show kind of thing. I'd say there's some weeks where like we ate at our apartment every day and like maybe just spent money at like the pub for a couple drinks or like a coffee in the morning or a pastry or something. And then there are other weeks where like if someone had a birthday, you'd be spending more like going out to dinner or things like that. Or if you're traveling, you're going to be spending more money on food. So yeah, it varies week by week. Definitely budget for it though. Yeah, but there's like weeks like during the actual school week, you can spend very minimal money because you are going to class all day. You are still a student. That's something you have to remember. It's not like you're out traveling like as a tourist all the time, because that would get very expensive, obviously. So I really feel like a lot of the money just goes to trips on the weekends and like that sort of transportation, Airbnb, food in those places. That's where I think a lot of our money went. And that can be lessened too if you book ahead and look ahead at your weekends and like check prices and just get things booked earlier. That will lessen the cost of outside travel. Yeah.
So how often did you guys travel? Where did you go? Like on average, maybe how expensive was it? And like what did it look like?
Great question. We were not allowed to travel outside of Great Britain for the first half of our trip because of like COVID restrictions still last spring. So you could go to like Scotland and Wales and England, but in Northern Ireland, but like we couldn't go outside of that. After that, we started to travel more on the weekends. We go from like a Friday night or a Saturday morning to a Sunday night or Monday morning, depending on when you had classes. I would say like traveling is super exciting and we went a lot of cool places, which I can name, but also definitely make sure that you are spending weekends in London because it's so cool. There's so much to do there, so many free things. So plan in your weekends to be in London. But some of the cool places that we went outside of Great Britain, I went to Italy and Spain and Vienna, Paris, Ireland, Switzerland. I can't even remember.
Yeah.
But lots of cool places to go, and then some of that was also post-travel, so. It just kind of varied person by person. Some people were hot to trot and get out of, like, and get to see new places, but then it's like. Some people saved that for post-travel or stayed in London, so. Yeah, like she said, definitely set aside those weekends to be in London or England in general, or in the UK in general, because like totally go to Scotland, go to Wales, do all of that. Get the UK experience, but yeah, I would say on average, like, because of our shortened amount of time we were able to leave during the program, I would say people maybe went like on average 4 to 5 weekends. I would say that was,
Every other weekend.
yeah, we would kind of do every other, plan around other people, plan with other people, so I would say like. An average amount, if we had the full time, would honestly probably be like 8 weekends out of the, study abroad experience, but, obviously, yeah, you can account for, post travel too, so. The earlier you book, because you said spending, right? You can get some really cheap flights. You can fly places in Europe way cheaper than you can in the US. Like, I would say we didn't really usually spend more than £100 on flights. Sometimes they're a little more expensive if it was a little bit more of a desirable weekend or desirable location, but nothing crazy. And then Airbnb or VRBO are the best way to go. Hotels get really expensive really fast, and if you travel in groups, you can split that. I would definitely say, depending on a weekend trip, we didn't spend more than even like £100 or £100, €100 on accommodations for somewhere to stay either. So it's affordable.
Yeah, there are seemingly sketchy airlines that'll still get the job done, like EasyJet and like Ryanair, like. We trusted them and we're alive and it worked out great. And also you can, one thing that you can do on like Airbnb and VRBO is like look up hostels and search for like private rooms, that way you're not sharing with strangers, but then like you get a room with your friends in a hostel for like £20 a night, so like kind of just searching that way.
And just shared bathrooms.
Yeah, we stayed in hostels with like shared bathrooms, but like worked out great, so.
Yeah, and yeah, I would say the EasyJet Ryanair is kind of your equivalent to like your Spirit or Allegiant in the US, but like. As long as you don't buy into any of like their scams or extra upgrades, like not paying for a bag, just traveling with a backpack, like it's affordable, yeah, it's for sure.
How often did you guys use the train from the UK to Europe?
Once, okay, so. We never took it to Paris, so like the Eurostar goes from London to Paris. I don't think anyone did
I don't
that,
know anyone that did that.
but when I was post-traveling, I took it everywhere, so like. I trained from like Milan to Zurich, Switzerland, and like and then I went from Zurich to Paris and stuff like that, so that. I used quite a bit once I was on like mainland Europe, but like when you're in London, you don't really go to mainland Europe by train, but you do travel around Great Britain by train too. So like, didn't you like train from Edinburgh home and stuff like that?
Yeah, like there's trains to Scotland, trains to Wales, and yeah, so there's trains all over the UK, which I would definitely take advantage of over flying, depending on the amount of time that you have. But yeah, you can like even like train to like when we went to Oxford, or you can do that. I mean we took a bus, but you can train to all of those like other cities and desirable places, like if you wanted to get up to Manchester or things like that. Just take a train. Very affordable too if you're ahead of the game. Yeah, for sure.
So like, what was just like a normal day outside, of, like, like going to somewhere else or otherwise, like what time did you have to go to your internship, what time were your classes?
Yeah.
Did you have any like other responsibilities outside of things that you had to do? Or?
So, I mean, your classes, so in the first 7 weeks are your classes, or like you're only doing classes during that time. Some classes started like your 8 a.m.s just like here, and some classes were night classes that went from 6 to 9. So really a similar schedule to a day here at CSBSJU, depending on your class schedule, which you don't really get to choose what time your classes are at, so it's just kind of given to you. I would say most people started class around 9 or 10, if you had those morning classes. So wake up around like 8, have your normal morning, and then It's about, I would say, schedule in a 15-minute walk to Foundation House, depending on where your housing is, and then you'd have your 3-hour classes, and then usually if you had one class, you'd be done after that, or if you had a break, you'd have a break for lunch. You'd either go home or grab something out and then go back to class or do homework in the afternoons, I feel like. And then at night, that's when we would kind of either do homework or plan out something to do. That's like your typical weekday, I would say. I don't know if you want to talk about your internship day.
Yeah, I would also say like I had all afternoon or night classes, that's just how it worked out. So like sometimes I get up in the morning, like go for a walk around the park, grab a coffee, do my homework in the morning. Or like if we had free afternoons, like say you did a class in the morning, then that's when you're like, oh, I want to hit this museum or I want to see this place. So like kind of working that in your schedule depending on how much homework you have. And then at nights, yeah, people are like, you're living with your friends, everyone's kind of around. So it's like, are we gonna play cards? Are we gonna go grab a drink if it's a Thursday or Friday? Are we gonna plan out this trip that we want to go on in 3 weeks kind of thing? So internship wise, I got there around 8:30. I left my place around 8 because Nottingham was pretty close. And then I worked until 5 with a lunch break in there. And then I like to walk home at night because it was only about a 30-minute walk. And I got to walk through the park, which was pretty. And then it's like, if I wanted to work out, I do that, make dinner, catch up with my roommates and friends, and then same kind of thing, like see what people are up to, see what you want to do kind of thing.
Yeah, so during internship time, it's definitely, you're gonna see people less, you're working a 9 to 5 situation, so you're definitely catching up more so at night and the weekends. For me, I did not have the luxury of being a 30-minute walk. I had an hour and 20-minute train ride every morning, or tube ride to my internship with like multiple changes and stuff. So that is a reality too. There's close internships, there's far ones. So I had, I think, yeah, 3 switches on my train ride right during rush hour, had to get up very early, probably got up at 6:40, left by 7:30, had to be at work by 9, and then I worked 9 to 5, and then, yeah, so I really, my hours, I hit the rush hours very hard. I would say like 7:30 to 10 is like a rush hour in the morning, and then 4:30 to 6:30 is like, so you might be standing like sardines on a packed tube or on your bus or whatever. I mean, it's so worth it for the experience, but that's just kind of the reality. You have to account for more transportation time if you have a farther internship. Yes.
I have 2 questions. So the first one is like, how much money did you guys save or like bring with you expecting to spend? And then like, what is like safety wise, like how is London?
Yeah. I mean, you do have to account for the different things that you want to do and what your travel looks like. Some people didn't leave London that much at all and spent a lot less money. I would say, I don't know, it's been a while. I'm trying to think of like my number.
I think that personally so I guess it's different because we didn't travel outside of London the first 7 weeks, which means we did save money, like as compared to the people who are there now. I think, but then I also post-traveled for 2.5 weeks, so I don't know if that like evens out. I want to say I saved around like $4,000. And I spent almost all of it while I was there. Every penny was worth it. If you can afford it, save for it. But yeah, I guess it just like depends on where you're traveling to. London is an expensive city, things like that. So that's about what I spent. There are people who definitely spent a lot more. But I also got to do everything I wanted to do and I felt satisfied with it. And then there are people that spent less. So
yeah, I would say like, yeah, like that $3,000 to $4,000 range for a moderate, like you're gonna travel, you're gonna do the things, but you're not gonna be extravagant about it, is a very realistic amount of personal spending.
in terms of safety in London, sorry for your discussion, trying to talk about it. London is, compared to other cities in Europe, pretty safe. The people there kind of keep to themselves. Europe doesn't really do guns, so that's never a concern. The main safety thing I would say is like pickpocketing. So never keeping your wallet or your phone in your pockets is a big deal. A lot of us had like crossbody bags, like fanny packs we wore on the front, things like that, just so like we knew where our belongings were.
And then like, if you're like looking at directions on your phone, like, don't turn and like talk to your friend and like have your phone hanging out here, because someone will grab it and run away. So that was probably like our biggest story, but I don't think many people did. We only had like a couple. So just being smart, being aware of your surroundings. The biggest pickpocketing locations are the tubes and buses, because you're so close to each other. But yeah, otherwise, like, I never really felt unsafe in London.
We did have someone have their wallet stolen when I was with the London group in 2020. And they were at the pub with Gloucester Arms, and they were out in the big group of the St. John students, and she had her purse kind of hanging off the back of her chair. And she just wasn't paying attention. It sounded this shit. So you do need to kind of keep an eye on things, even when you're looking for people.
And
Everything
just
can happen.
things of like being aware of like. Very often you'll have your phone right here, even when you're at a restaurant or a pub, and then just being know of it, but then you're talking over here and then you look back and then there's your phone gone. So I think it's those crimes of opportunity and just the masses of people that you have to be aware of. And then just the other safety tips is like, you know, trusting your gut. And like looking for well-lit areas, especially at night, and going out in groups whenever possible, especially at night. Honestly, during the day, like it is, again, overwhelming, a very safe location, even though we are in large cities. But ultimately, hey, let's check out this narrow little alley that looks really dark. Maybe that one, you might try to do that with a friend, right? Or, and then not doing that at night. So it's some of those being aware of your surroundings and trusting your gut in those pieces, but overwhelmingly, yeah, feeling safe as a woman, I always did.
Oh, yeah, definitely feel safe. Yeah, like Joyce said, traveling in groups. I mean, you will learn the boroughs and areas that are less safe, especially at night. I would say it's mostly majority of the time at night where things get a little unsafe in certain areas, and you'll learn that just from being there and the places that you're less likely to go, because there aren't things that you're probably going to be doing there. So things like that though. But yeah, definitely if you're out or whatever you're doing, especially at night, being in a group is highly recommended.
I'm curious if you guys used any cash. Or, because my last trip to England on a short-term study abroad last summer, I did like an experiment. I thought, can I get by for 2 weeks with no cash? And I did everything on Apple Pay. And it worked. I didn't use a credit card other than my phone. So walking to a coffee house, I didn't even take my purse. I was just like on my phone. I felt like such a guy. It was all liberating. I didn't know that was amazing. But it's interesting how in Europe, it's really becoming a cash-free society in some countries. In some places like the Netherlands, they don't even take cash. Like it's all electronic payments and everyone's using their phone.
And I was surprised that like when I went to the UK, even in March, to New All, the amount of places like coffee shops or those things like would even take cash. And so I mean, I think it's less and less. The one thing I would note for you all about credit cards or debit cards is talk to your bank to let them know you're going to be abroad. But then the other thing about a credit card, if you don't have a credit card, now would be a good time to apply and look for some sort of credit card that has 0 foreign transaction fees. Because there's nothing worse than already there's going to be exchange rate on everything. So you have to think about what this pounds will translate into the US dollar, but especially debit cards and some credit cards have what's also called an international transaction fee. So every time you tap even Apple Pay, anytime you tap your card, you will get another 1 to 3% fee tacked onto there. So investigate that for your bank, first of all, but then look for, if you don't have a 0 transaction fee credit card, get one of those pieces. And then I think they're now all standard, but make sure you do have something that is tappable, because even like chip and pin, they don't like you at any establishment. It really does need to be a tap.
Yeah,
All tapped with it.
when it does come to cash, I got cash out, I think, one time in the beginning. Mainly used it at markets. That's the only place that I found. I mean, a lot of places do still have tap, but I would, if you're going to a market to either like get food or buy a bunch of souvenirs, that is the only place that I found like cash was nice to have. Just because like every vendor is different at a market too, like some places will only take cash. But I wouldn't say be taking out cash super often, like if you knew you were gonna go to the market and buy souvenirs or do like get some food or something. I would say that that's the only place that people really ended up using cash.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely set up like your Apple Pay if you have an iPhone or like a card that taps to pay, because that's like all that they do over there.
The only issue I did end up getting a card with no international fees, which was different than my card that I had because my card that I use every day here has international fees when I do go abroad, but American Express is less like normal there, if that makes sense. Like a lot less businesses take American Express. Your bigger places all will, but if you're at some small, more local coffee shop, they might only take your Visa, MasterCard, bigger ones. I didn't have
I
a.
also have a Discover card.
Yeah.
Yes.
Has not been widely accepted, but Mandy said in the UK, she was the director, that I was the co-director for in UK. She said she used it everywhere.
Oh, wow.
So I think Discover's getting more popular.
But I would say in mainland, I would still go
Yeah.
east on.
Yeah.
What did I say? Oh, yes.
Yeah, Visa or
I know, we're like the commercial, like get a credit. But pay off your credit.
Yes. Yes. Any other questions? Yeah. It depends on the class that you're taking, like my Harry Potter class was definitely a bit smaller than like your British life and culture. I would say probably have like 30 to 40 people in them, but I wouldn't say more than 30 to 40. Your BLC, your British life and culture is definitely gonna be your biggest class, which I think was 30 to 40. Because, yeah, because everyone that is going there is taking that class, so. But yeah, nothing crazy or big lecture halls or anything, so. Yeah.
So it would be British life and culture, and the FIE course are gonna be all Americans, but the other two courses would be mixed in with Londoners.
No Londoners in any of your courses, so it's all at FIE and all American universities that are at FIE. Your one class with Allison, and then you'll have your internship course, which is when you'll all be in your internship. That will be with the same people that you're with or like throughout your first 7 weeks. And then BLC and your two other choices are all with the other American universities that are there. Like some of them would be like UW-Madison,
University of Florida.
Elon,
Santa Clara.
Loyola, Marymount, just a bunch of random other US.
Lots of East and West Coast schools, but other than Madison, so.
Yeah, so all Americans, yeah, there's not really, but your professors will be British, yeah, for sure. And then your internships, obviously British people, yeah. Any other questions, interesting? No, there's a lot of info.
Did you guys buy the prep membership?
Oh, yes.
Can you explain what that
And we
is?
rigged the system so much so like they took it away. They took it away. Yeah. So there's this cafe called Pret. It's on quite literally every corner.
And at every train station.
And, yeah,
Most
it's
tube
all over the
stations.
place. And so they have this deal where you could get unlimited, it was 5 drinks a day, spread out by at least 30 minutes. For 20 pounds. 25 pounds. 25 pounds a month, but your first month was free, so we put in credit cards and emails. And then we'd cancel it right before a month, and then we'd like call our mom and say, can I borrow your email? Like accept me on your email, and then use a different credit card and then cancel. So we got like 3 months of free coffee.
They don't let you do that anymore though, so.
And then like our last month, they were like, they took away the free month, I think, because so many of us were doing that.
Were you drinking 5 coffees a day then?
No, but they had smoothies and they had milkshakes and they had tea.
And there's one right by Foundation House too, so before your class, you'd see a line of students in there because you're gearing up for your 3-hour class, you need your caffeine, but I would say like. There were days when I probably got 3.
Yeah, I don't know if we got more than 3, but, and then like internship in the morning, like on your way to the office, oh, it was.
But it's worth it, even at 25.
Oh, it's worth it, like if you think about.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And that's, I mean, because when you think of UK pricing, it is the same as here, but then now you have an exchange rate. So the coffee price is the same, but then now you have to add an exchange rate in there. That's the piece that makes it that much more expensive.
Yeah.
What appliances were in your kitchen? I go there.
Microwave, oven, I think a blender, stove top.
Toaster.
Toaster.
Is there coffee maker?
Ours randomly having espresso in it, but all of them kind of vary. We had the one that had like a live-in RA person in it, so I think he had some of his like appliances in there too. But really just like basic things, I mean, and then like for tools, just like your knives, spatulas, all that stuff, but nothing super extra or fun, like if you like to make. pasta or something. Yeah, things like that, but what you would need to make a basic meal, yeah. Do you have questions?
Yeah, is the exchange rate for dollars to pounds still pretty much just 5 pounds is $6 US?
I mean, it obviously fluctuates, it was really good like in January.
The
I don't know
value
what
is
it is
still
now.
relatively high compared to most European
Better than
currencies.
me, way better
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
sure.
yeah, we kind of thought with Brexit, maybe suddenly the UK would be really cheap, but it didn't.
Yeah.
And they're having inflation issues just like we are. Yeah.
But
And
Joanna
our
was
credit,
right.
Yeah, so I mean, the exchange rate is like $1 is going to be like, $1 US, or £1 is more like $1.21 USD. So, yeah, but that's still a great, I used to say one,
It used to be,
or
it was
2 to 1, I know.
I
So I would recommend downloading or checking frequently the exchange rate, because it does vary from time to time. Or if you have an app like there's XE, it's like currency exchange, would be an app I would recommend as well. If you are really like budgeting is gonna be one of your pieces, that is always helpful to reference as you're thinking ahead.
Did you have one more?
Yeah, did you ever like drive over there for any reason?
No, not once, which is actually so great because then you can just like zone out on the tube or like
I know.
do whatever you want.
Okay, on that note, did it take a while to get used to like everything being on the opposite
Yes.
side?
Like when you're crossing the roads, like you usually look like what we do, left or left, but then you have to look right, because you don't want to get run over. Yeah, it was different, especially with the big buses, like, and they don't stop for you. They're never gonna stop for you. So like, stay on the side of caution. We had some people that were very bold on our trip and just sent it, but I would say. Yeah, they're not friendly traffic people, I would say, like, you're in the middle of a city, I mean, that's common, so just. Being aware of crossing the roads was the only thing that really got us with the left and right differences.
And when you're in central London, they're used to tourists, so actually if you look down, it will tell you like what way to look. So, and that's sadly helpful in those first weeks. So like, oh yes, I gotta look this way.
And then you come back to the US and be like, oh, I need to reteach myself a way to look across the street. And be like, oh my gosh, the roads are so big. The roads are really big here. Yeah. So, yeah. Thanks for all the great questions. Those are awesome.
For sure.
All right, well, thank them. And then in the email I send tomorrow, I'll put their information and I'll link to the other ambassadors as well. I know they're more than happy if you have specific questions to email them in regards to tips, those kind of things as well.
For sure.
Anything else? Otherwise, I will let them go and we'll talk some program specific aspects. Okay. All right, thank you. So one last thing before I transition to the program instructions that I talked through, sent out yesterday, and then the acceptance packet I sent out last week. So in preparation of travel, the things to note, it is a good idea to look at the US State Department. As we said in the acceptance packet, we will register you for what's called the US STEP. The system will send you emails of what's happening in the UK and if there's any changes or things like that. But this country information gives helpful pieces of what are the alerts, what is happening in regards to travel. It also gives safety tips and things like that. And the other thing it talks about is like local law. So not only is this important to UK where you're going to spend most of your time, but I would also recommend looking at the State Department's guidance for any other independent travel that you're going to. And the other just note in regards to packing lists and things like that, that they mentions that you won't see guns and they consider
a wide range of weapons. So things like even pocket knives or pepper spray or mace are considered weapons. And so if you get caught with those, you may end up having a fine, jail time, or arrested. The other thing even is in regards to possession of marijuana, that is still illegal in the UK as well. And so even possession can also lead to jail time there. So these aren't things to scare you at any point, but just be mindful of what is considered weapons in other parts of the world and those kind of things. Yes.
But UK legal pocket knives could be brought with there.
So pocket knives actually 3 inches or less, they can be confiscated or things like that. So actually I would probably leave any, especially if it's anything that's special or like, you know, a lot of times like you get grandpa's pocket knife or something like that. We've seen a number of those get confiscated. So that would be something I would leave at home. So if you go through museums or things like that, or even through TSA or in the UK for airport, those have been confiscated. So it just is my warning that I mean, obviously, like anything, there are things people can have, but we have seen evidence of this being taken away in the past. So, and then just be wary. Now, you know, most of, I don't know what kind of COVID land we are in at this present time, but it's still helpful to bring your CDC card, extra masks, even if maybe some COVID tests, just in case. You never know what that may look like there. And then also whatever you take for medications and those kind of things, be sure to bring the full supply for the time you are abroad with a doctor's note to say that you're able to get that full supply. You may have to work with your insurance because sometimes depending on what your medication looks like to have an exception to get that large amount. So that's something to work on now between now and the time you leave in regards to kind of that prep for travel there. So in the acceptance packet I sent was an email last week to you and parents. Here are the official dates for the London program. And so you guys can officially arrive on site and housing can be available on August 30th. You can arrive before that date, but please note the first day housing is available is going to be August 30th. And so, and then kind of backtracking, the last day housing is available is December 17th. So those are the dates of housing. There isn't a space to store luggage before or after, so you do have to make plans for that. The other piece I want to note in here is because of your visa requirements, there are some date requirements that we need to adhere of as well. And so if you are thinking of pre or post travel, there was additional guidance in that acceptance packet, or you can talk to me about your particular case in regards to how it may work for you and your UK visa. So I just one thing to note there. What's to be determined is going to be where your exact when and where your excursions to Stonehenge, Greenwich, and Tower of London will happen. But midterm break that is set, and when your internship starts is set. And they talked about kind of 2 phases of the program. Your classes concentration will really happen during the first phase in September to mid-October, and then October to the end of the program, you'll have still British life and culture, and but you then will have your internship and your internship class. Any questions? Yeah.
Are there any holidays we're used to here that just aren't celebrated there? Or?
Well, that's a very good question. So yes, we're very used to Thanksgiving. So that will not be a day that will be off. So that will be a normal day over there. The other pieces would be, I'm trying to think, there may be, I'm trying to think if there for fall, there's any big holidays in the UK. Yeah. So there's also in October, there's not like Veterans Day like we have here, or in October is the Indigenous Day or Columbus Day. So very, but I'm just trying to think, but there are different holidays, like you'll celebrate in the fall Guy Fawkes Day. That isn't a day off, but it's a celebration, especially in London, you have fireworks and things like that. That's a fun thing for you all as a fall piece there. Any other questions about the dates? All right. So a little bit more about airfare and what that looks like. So there's not a group flight option. So all of you will need to independently get yourself to London on August 30th. In order for that to happen, you will leave the US on August 29th. So you can leave from whatever home airport in the US you would like to, just to arrive before noon, landing in a London airport. The most convenient airport is Heathrow. There's different ways that you can get to Foundation House and Metrogate where you pick up keys, and I'll give more information of what that looks like. But that is kind of the main hub to get from Heathrow to your apartment to FIE. The one other thing we just still want to note is, you know, look at, we still highly suggest that you book directly with an airline or a trusted travel agent versus using somewhere like a Student Universe or things like that. Because if you do need to end up making any kind of changes to your flight, it is best to work directly with an airline. So once you decide that the date and time work, feel free to go ahead and book. The other thing that other groups have done in the past is start like group chats or those kind of things. So you can start, I'm looking at these dates or I'm looking at these dates. So start having those conversations so that you guys can see if maybe this is your first time traveling, that you have like, all right, we're going to travel together and this is how this looks, and those aspects there. So in your acceptance packet, there was also your fee estimate. This behind me kind of showcases that as well, that you pay the same tuition as you normally pay for St. Ben, St. John's, but instead of room and board, that goes away. You get education abroad fee for London. So all of that is what gets built in July. And then however your aid package normally works and however you normally make do bills, this is what ultimately, this minus your aid packages is what you will pay St. Ben, St. John. But then these are those extras that are out of pocket expenses. And so, you know, here are the big ones you can control would be airfare, personal, and food. The visa fee is something that happens in pre-departure as well, and that will happen in late May or June. But, you know, those are great budgeting questions you have that students can spend a wide range on food, airfare, and personal, and phone in those pieces there. So that's helped a little bit more on the finances. So on Monday, I sent you all the application. So you guys are all accepted to the program. You're all accepted to FIE, but now you have to do the next step to apply to FIE. So in the attachment I sent yesterday, kind of walked you through step by step this online application. So once you start their application, you will have to fill out very many of the things are quick and simple, like date of birth, those kind of things. The two that are going to take time that I want to spend a little bit of time here today are on the academic program options, and then also the internship. Thea and Anna talked about housing. So on the housing form, so if there is any kind of housing preference that you would want to mention, that would be the place where you would mention that kind of housing preference. The other thing is if you do have student accommodations or student accessibility, you work with student accessibility services here, the health and well-being information form, that would be great information for you to share on that form as well. And then the passport, that form, if you currently are waiting for your passport, you can put an old expired one in at that point in time. Or if you're still waiting on your first passport, there's an email in that form to connect with, and they can help you figure out how to bypass that form so you can submit this in a timely manner. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about first the internships. And so majority of our students do general internships. And so if you are interested in a service internship, the main difference is they're all just nonprofits and the course looks a little bit different. So for an internship, you will pick, if I'm like a global business student, you can pick business and entrepreneurship, but in your online presence, you can't pick business and entrepreneurship 3 times. You ultimately can pick 3 different industry areas that work together. So maybe it would be business entrepreneurship, but maybe you also want to work in marketing, you're looking at that subcategory, so maybe then I'd pick marketing and journalism, and then the third one, I decided I wanted to do finance and accounting. But truly, maybe I still want to work in an ethical finance organization. So just know when you're picking your industry areas that you can't pick this one 3 times, but you can kind of see how they can work together. And you pick a first choice, a second choice, and a third choice. Any one of these on the website you can click on, it will tell you a little bit more what the industry area looks like. It tells you what examples of placement, what students do in the past, and the other things is the skills they're looking for and the skills that like maybe be a match. So, you know, as you're thinking about what internship you want for your study abroad, it is maybe spending some time here and thinking through what are the skills I want to gain, what are those side passions that maybe I haven't had time to enhance here on campus, or maybe in my major, I haven't had that official internship yet. So I do want to enhance that piece. But as Thea said, they do a good job ultimately matching the skills you have, the skills you want to obtain, ultimately goals you're looking for, and meshing that to an internship experience. I do want to let you know that this online paperwork that you complete right now is what you will ultimately have to do for the internship. There isn't a time to that many times, you know, you do an online application and then there's the interview. You won't have that part. Ultimately, all that FIE, so they are the ones that making the match and sending out your CVs, which is called your resume in London. That is really what is going to sell you, is everything on paper. So that's why it's so important to take crucial time on this part of the process, because you know, be like, I'll really like spend like 10 minutes on this, but once we get on that Zoom call, that's where I'll shine. There isn't that option for that part of the process for FIE and internship placement process. So truly, you really need to think through and answer the questions they have in the internship section, fine tune your CV and your personal statement, we'll get to that. And that's what ultimately sells you for your internship of choice. Here, yeah.
Do people typically end up with at least one of their selections that
They do, yeah. Yeah, so behind me is examples of what service internships look like. So truly you can see the main difference is here it talks more about industry areas, where here is they're all nonprofits. You could end up ultimately at the same site, because here also lists social welfare nonprofit organizations. But truly, if you decided that I want my course to be a little bit more global citizenship focused with a human capacity, but also I really want to make sure that I want to hone in more on, I want to make sure human rights, youth organizations, and diversity rights. That's really what I want to build my internship around. You could still build it around in this section, but mainly the difference is the course is the biggest difference. Again, more questions on service internships, talk to me. 98% of our students do normal internships, about 2%, 1 to 2 a semester do the service internship route. Yeah.
Can you choose between both lists, or do you have to make a choice?
You do have to make a choice. So if you you could inform, if you choose internship, you could peek at this, right? And still all of these are also clickable links on FIE's website. And so those can also help you inform, and really, I love using language that's already there to be like, yes, those are exactly what I want. And so it can help you with ultimately your application in those pieces. So also in that application guide, I gave you helpful links that it does walk you through every step of the process. It gives you sample resumes to tweak. You all have resumes that you completed for your application to apply for study abroad. You have to make some small tweaks to make them CVs ready for employers in the UK. And then you have to make this personal statement. In some ways, it kind of looks like a cover letter, but it really talks and it gives you a great guide of what you're looking for and how to express in your industry areas, what you're hoping to gain from that internship. And ask some like guided questions on how to complete that. So spend some time here. So as I mentioned, so this is due October, no, sorry, I got my months mixed up, not October, April 12th. So don't just wait till the day before, really spend some time here thinking now about how do I want to spend this internship and what does that look like. So, but any other specific questions, if you want to have help transitioning your resume to a CV, Hub Ambassador is in my location and experience hub. Feel free to make an appointment on Handshake with them. If you have specific questions, feel free to find me in the Hive to make an appointment. I'm more than happy to kind of walk through and as you're like noodling all these pieces for the internship. The other major thing that you're going to be doing by April 12th is picking your classes, okay? And so most of them are picked for you, but you have 2 open electives that you need to select. And in those courses, all of them have been already kind of vetted for integration curriculum, or any of these also are general electives towards graduation. So you don't have to do any of that work. And so here is the listing of all the course offerings. And so if you are looking for CF systems, that would be the Pride and Prejudice course. Upper Theology is the Islam is the West. So there is options throughout
Here,
here.
CS would only be if you had a faculty member.
No, so this one is an on-site course.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so there's one on-site course if you choose. And then here's kind of continuation. The one theme course is diversity in Britain, and then these general electives towards graduation. So the biggest thing is, even though you're only going to have 2 classes that you ultimately will take in London, on the FIE form, you're actually going to pick 6. You're going to pick like your top 2 and then 4 backups basically. So from this list, you're going to choose, looking at your 4-year plan, seeing what you ultimately need to take to graduate. So again, all of these credits have been vetted for integrations, or they have been vetted for general education requirements. A number have also been vetted for major minor. So if you're one of these major minors up here, so accounting, GBIS, if you look on our website, it will, not in those first 2 pages, but go to the course descriptions. It will say this course counts for political science majors, or it will say also it does not count for political science majors. So if your major or minor is not listed here, that is the only time you need to email a department chair. You send them of that snippet, the course description that you find on the London semester website. And you would say, I'd like to take this as my art minor. And they say yes or no. If they say yes, perfect, you can list it. And then on the FIE form, and then there's 2 things that you need to do with those courses. First, list the 6 courses on the FIE form. So here's a sample of that. This is taken straight from those program instructions. So you'll say, I'm taking British life and culture. I don't have a course taught by a visiting faculty, but you want 2 electives, and you start choosing the courses you want. And then there's a form that you will also complete for the global portal. For the FIE form, that goes to FIE and they start working on your class schedule, and you ultimately will get your class schedule in July or in early August, and that's when add drop happens there. So there is still one more chance to like change classes. Then the next place that you're gonna send your classes is you're gonna put it in the global portal. And this is your time to tell me, so that we're all on the same page, that yep, I acknowledge that I want to take the British theater class and I know it's going to meet artistic expression. And so like, I really want my artistic expression, so I'm putting some backups for that. And then maybe I'm a global business major student, so I want to take that. I know that's pre-approved, but if I wasn't a global business student, it seems like still a cool class, so that I can take like general elective towards graduation, and there's drop downs for that. You know, maybe the Harry Potter, that seems like a cool one. And then I really still want my artistic expression. So I really wanna put that as one of my backups. If you did say like, I'm an art major or minor, so instead of saying artistic expression, I would say, here, there's a drop down that says major approval, but then there's also a place for you to upload that email that said, yes, you can take that. And so that's my double check, because what we want to make sure is all these will transfer back to St. Ben, St. John's. But if you were hoping, oh, Suri really wanted to help me. But if you're really wanting to make sure that got in your art major or your art minor, without that approval, it's not going to work for degree work. So that's kind of the key piece of this question.
I'm on the old track because I started college year 2019 and I took a semester off. Would that have any effect on the requirements, or is that something I just need to talk to my advisor about?
Actually, just come talk to me. We have transitioned most of this to integrations. It's pretty simple. So truly most of it would be, you know, instead of artistic expression, it's fine arts, theology is theology. The biggest thing is if you still need ethics, I can tell you which ethics are. So everything I can send you a different list. Can you remind me your name? Devin, perfect. All right, I can send you, I still have the old common, what meant in the common, but if you have specific questions, actually just come talk to me. Thank you. All right, questions on these two forms. Again, if you have questions, feel free to talk to your advisor, but also talk to me in regards to if something doesn't make sense, working through any things for your course plan as well. But I know you guys have been talked at for a long time and you haven't yet met each other. So the biggest thing is, one last thing, you do have to register with Banner as well. It will be a pretty quick process. Again, you're not fighting anyone for classes. You just need to do it. I will send an email about more information on what that looks like. But then deadlines, pieces coming up was April 12th will be the online application for FIE along with the form in the global portal. Before that is the health form. So after you complete your online orientation aspects, you also need to complete the health form. So that's just helpful information for our office to also gather so that we can set you up for success abroad. And then if you haven't already, completing the passport form, so that will be key for your getting your visa. There will be more details on visa and what that looks like. But right now, just know you need your passport for that. And then ultimately we need arrival flights by July 15th. I won't go into details here about visas, but just know you need a passport and then your, but there will be a UK visa process as well. There will be a chance for ambassadors, for you to connect again with ambassadors to talk a little bit more in depth, travel tips and tricks. So I will send a save the date for this as well. So thank you all. Question before we have you all get to know each other in these last months. Again, Joy Rice, all the emails, be sure to save the emails I'm sending, maybe find yourself a folder. The other thing is FIE sometimes have a tendency, once you start getting emails from them, we have a very strong spam filter. So start checking your junk, especially when you start creating that account. Check your junk for those in those first few pieces. And then from there, you can really make sure you're getting emails from them as well. So I will start. Yes. Okay.